Hi, I'm Dafydd Williams, and you are listening to the TigerTalk Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the TigerTalk Podcast, the official Gloucester City AFC club podcast. My name's Noah Woodland. I'm joined by Morgan Turner-Green. Morgan, how are you today?
I'm all good. Had a week off from uni, so a nice week to reset and come back to the podcast.
Yeah, and you've come back to a big one. We've got none other than Gloucester City head coach Dafydd Williams on the podcast. Daff, how are you? And thank you for coming on.
Very well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's obviously one we've been wanting to do for a while, and we'll just talk a little bit about your journey through football, your journey into coaching, and getting to now where you are at Gloucester City. So we'll start off just with letting everybody know, why you've got into coaching and where you started.
I was a football addict from a very young age. So above all else, I'm a massive football fan. From the age of 6, I was a season ticket holder at Swansea City. So followed them up and down the country and played, throughout my childhood. And around 16, 17, I quickly realised that I wasn't going to be a player, and sort of decided then to sort of transfer all my effort and energy into coaching. So I started off doing some voluntary stuff as you do at that age, and that sort of led itself then to going into university, and that then led itself to different qualifications and working at different academies and football clubs.
And just a little, where would we have seen a Dafydd Williams player? Where would we have seen him on the pitch?
Oh, middle of the park, running round pretending he knows what he's doing, I think.
Yeah, I could picture that, I reckon.
Just running around kicking people, really. I get close enough to.
So you go to uni, and then I think you go into your local Welsh clubs, Cardiff and Swansea, with a little bit of experience with those clubs. Yeah,
so after some sort of voluntary stuff, and I went to University of South Wales, did my C licence, my B licence, and then within that time I did a little bit of coaching at Cardiff City Academy and Swansea City Academy. And then from there made a move across the bridge, worked at Bristol Rovers for a number of years then, and did my A licence at 24, and then I'm sure we'll get into it, but then sort of went on to a number of different roles at a number of different clubs.
And you say you go to Bristol Rovers. I think you were there for a long time. How important are those youth coaching roles? Not because some fans might think that you just jump into a men's role, but you're going through all the age groups. How important were those years for you?
Yeah, really important. First and foremost, I'd say it was important because I was really fortunate to work with some really good people. So that's, above all else, that's the biggest thing I got from that experience was who I had the pleasure of working with, and both as people and as coaches. And in terms of working with sort of the academy and the younger age groups, it allowed me to sort of gain learning, gain experience, develop, and because I haven't got a playing background, you often see sort of players going straight into senior football. With people like myself, it's more commonly known that you go and you almost earn your stripes a little bit with the younger age groups, so a great opportunity to work with some young talent, to sort of find out who I am as a coach, what my style is, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and as the years have gone on, then that's sort of transpired into different roles, working with older players and now in the senior game.
And you talk about not having that playing background. Have you ever found that a problem in your career? Obviously, maybe at academy football it's not an issue, but when you've stepped into senior men's players, have some players maybe thought a bit about that, or have you worked around it?
No, I've definitely worked around it, whether that's because of the type of person I am, or whether that's me being fortunate to have worked with the players that I've worked with. That's definitely a hot topic, I think, in terms of, there's a lot of people of the opinion that you can't be a coach or a manager if you haven't got a playing career, or and listen, if I'm being completely honest, if I could have had a playing career, I'd have had one. It would be fantastic to to sort of to have that on the CV and have those sort of knowledge and experiences from a playing point of view to sort of back up what I'm doing as a coach and a manager. But one thing that's really important, in my opinion, and sort of speaking from experience as well, is it's really important to have those interpersonal skills with players, especially those that have got experience in the game, playing at a high level. So yeah, you have to find a way of gaining their respect. You have to find a way of earning credibility, and through doing that, and again, I can only speak from my experience, it's just by being an open-minded person, sort of feeding off their knowledge, feeding off their experiences, and making them feel valued. And then ultimately, you have to be good at what you do as well to sort of earn that credibility and respect. So I'd probably put it down to how you are as a person, how you sort of conduct yourself, how you approach these people and players, and then having good players as well to sort of, it works both ways. So, you have to have the players being receptive to what you're doing and your beliefs and how you want to do things. And I've been really fortunate to have some top people as players.
Yeah, so now we pull ourselves to your first time at the club at Gloucester City, the assistant manager role alongside Lee Mansell. Talk to us about how that role came about and your relationship with Lee personally.
Yeah, I got a great relationship with Lee. First and foremost, we've got a personal relationship, and then, we've had a professional one as well. So that started at Bristol Rovers. So he finished playing with the first team at Bristol Rovers and was given the opportunity to be the 21s coach and sort of work in between the academy and the first team, and that's how we started working together, and we built a strong relationship from there. He's a fantastic person and a really, really good coach and a really, really good manager. So when he made the move to Gloucester from Bristol Rovers, I was really fortunate to have him ask me to go in as his assistant. I wasn't in the best of places either, to be fair, at the time. So I owe Lee a lot in terms of giving me that opportunity, and we had a fantastic time. It was really, really tough. Firstly, we inherited some real issues on and off the pitch, and I thought Lee did a magnificent job as a manager of Gloucester City Football Club. A lot of it will have gone unnoticed, and in that first season there was a lot of firefighting, but we did what we set out to do, and that was to get the club safe in a respectable sort of amount of time and left of the season. And then we had a really positive off season, a really good pre-season, recruited. We had to settle a lot of things that were going on off the pitch, and when you're talking about budget, etc. And as I said, I thought the way that Lee led those difficult times and circumstances was a credit to him as firstly a person, but also a manager. So we started the season quite well. Then in our second year, I think it was like 4 wins, 4 losses, which is crazy, but it's a 50% win ratio. So we were clinging on to that, and then we went to Banbury on a Tuesday night, and Banbury were doing really well. They were top of the league, and we drew. And then on the Wednesday evening, we had a phone call to say our sort of time was up, which it's a funny story, but yeah, listen, we had a great time. But again, what I was saying to Morgan there, it was about the people, and we recruited really good people as well as players, and it was a real enjoyable time in terms of the environment and who we were working with amongst all the sort of chaos that came around it. So it was a fantastic experience, and I've got a lot to thank Lee for that.
Obviously, we don't want to go into the chaos too much, but you find yourself at the club now. How different, we're a league below, obviously, but how different is the ongoings behind the scenes now compared to, a few years ago?
Yeah, it's night and day. It's night and day, and I don't mind being as open and as honest as you want me to be, but I think Colin Taylor's done a magnificent job, as have the board and everyone that's sort of associated with the football club, the volunteers, supporters as well, and it's a really, really good place to be at the minute. And that's credit to what's gone on and going on off the pitch, as well as on it.
Yeah, it's very early days this season, but from your experience in that season in the National League North, how tough is that league? It's obviously known as a really tough league to go into.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough for different reasons. I think at the time it was sort of renowned for being a very much a physical league, but I think it's becoming a little bit more technical now as well, which makes it even harder. But like I said, I think we had some good players, which made the job a little bit easier. And we, in my opinion, we inherited what wasn't as a competitive group as what it probably should have been for the level, and that took a little bit of time to sort of rectify. But the squad that we assembled, I feel, in the summer going into the second season was a real strong squad, one that I felt would compete, and it did compete, after we left as well. So yes, it's a tough league. It's definitely a step up from where we are currently. But yeah, hopefully one day we can test ourselves at that level again and show what we're about.
Yeah, and you talk about obviously your departure from the club the first time. There's a lot of talk about the impact that getting sacked does have on a manager, but I think the coaches with that manager are often forgotten about. How, and I don't want to say how do you take leaving, because it's never going to be good, but how do you sort of cope with that and manage to stay in a good place?
Yeah, it's tough. That was my first one as well, really. So I'd left a previous club in different circumstances. This was the first sacking, if you like. Let's call a spade. And yeah, it was funny actually. So like we played Banbury on the Tuesday, and then the Wednesday was my partner's 30th birthday. So
That's brutal.
We were all in the house, and obviously the family's over, and you can laugh about it now, but I was sat there in the evening and I had 2 missed calls off Mance. I was like, and he'd have known it was my partner's birthday. I was like, why is he calling me? And then just ignored it, and then he texted me saying, give me a call. I thought I'd better go upstairs, and I better give him a call, and it was to say that the lad, because we were full time then as well, so the lads have been told not to report for training the next day. We need to go to the club at 9 o'clock in the morning. That only means one thing, so the writing was on the wall. So I've had to go downstairs, and they're singing happy birthday and popping the poppers and the balloons and whatever, and I just sat there with a pint in my hand, just like, I don't really know what to do here. But that's the harsh reality of the game, and even that itself was an experience. So I'm better for it, I'm stronger for it, and yeah, but like you say, it often goes quite unnoticed really what it actually does, because it was a difficult time. You're out of work then for a couple of months, but again, I was really fortunate to have sort of good people around me, and I was offered the opportunity to go into Barry Town, albeit it was part-time, which was really, really different for me, having come from full-time experiences. But I had a really good time there. Lee Kendall was the manager, and we had a successful sort of 7 or 8 months together, where we won 2 cup competitions, and we won the league to go back into the Welsh Prem, which is great. So that kind of cushioned the blow a little bit. But yeah, as I said, it's all experience, and it's all things that you can always sort of relate back to make sure you're a better version of yourself moving forward. Yeah,
and you mentioned your time with Barry there. What are the Welsh footballing? What is the Welsh footballing pyramid like? As you've gone straight from Gloucester City in the north to a whole different league and a whole different setup, like you said, part time.
Yeah, it is different, definitely. So there's a big jump between the leagues within the pyramid in terms of standard, in terms of budgets and stuff like that. So Barry at the time, the season prior, got relegated to what they call the Cymru South, so the second division effectively. And yeah, there was a big contrast in terms of the levels, etc. And but like I said, we had a really good group of players and a great group of staff. And to be fair, Barry's a big club in Welsh football, so the expectation was to sort of be successful in that season, which we were, and the aim was to get back into the Welsh Prem. Now, in that summer, I was then offered the opportunity to go to Newport, so it's difficult for me to sort of comment on what the Welsh Prem is like in terms of the day-to-day sort of stuff and the levels and the different places that you go to, because I didn't experience it. So, and unfortunately I didn't experience it because I jumped ship quite quickly, but in the same breath, I was offered a fantastic opportunity then to go to Newport. But from what I can understand, I'd probably say the Welsh Prem is in and around the sort of north and south sort of level, and then depending on which team you're analysing, it might be the top end or the bottom end, and then maybe even top end of this level. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's a massive difference in terms of what my understanding is of the Welsh Prem, in terms of the difference between north, south and these sort of levels.
Yeah, and obviously in recent years it's been introduced in the Welsh Prem that the top teams can qualify for the Conference League in Europe. What are your thoughts on that, and is it a little bit like, say, the top of the National League North going into, the European Conference League?
Yeah, I suppose it is like that, yeah. Yeah, definitely, but obviously they're their own sort of identity, and you've got countries from all over the world that are sort of competing and being represented in these competitions. So why shouldn't the Welsh leagues have that sort of luxury and privilege as well? So yeah, it's fantastic for Welsh football, and it's fantastic for the clubs that are competing in those competitions.
Yeah, so then we go to you getting the job at Newport County. I think online it says it was a technical coach, or was it more of just like an assistant manager role?
So I went in as a first team coach so I received a call just as pre-season had started, actually, from Graham Coughlin, who was the manager in Newport. So Graham Coughlin was the manager at Bristol Rovers when I did the youth team with Mance and Tom Parinello. And his assistant manager was Joe Dunn, who was at Bristol Rovers as well. So I had the opportunity to go there as the first team coach. They were looking for one. So obviously with that sort of previous relationship and location, etc., it all sort of fitted in really, really well. And yeah, like the best experience of my career so far. The opportunity was unbelievable. To be a first team coach of League Two, working with people like that at 30, it was I was really honoured and really privileged. And at a club like Newport County as well, I grew very, very fond of the football club and the people that were there and the supporters, and ended up having some fantastic experiences in that first year, both in the league and cup competitions. And I've got an awful lot to thank Graham and Joe for, because as a first team coach, you can go into different clubs and that role looks a little bit different. You can just be picking up bibs and cones, or you can be heavily involved, and I was heavily involved in terms of like the coaching and the analysis, and I was really, really fortunate with the exposure that I had from the opportunity that Graham and Joe gave me. So that was the first, and then in the second year then it was as assistant manager.
Yeah, and you've mentioned a few times about switching from full-time to part-time. Obviously you go to Newport, that's like a full professional running business really. What are the main differences of being in non-league and being at a football league club that's playing in the high rounds of the FA Cup and competing in League Two, which is obviously a massive league?
Well, the obvious ones is resources and facilities and stuff like that, although we didn't have great facilities at Newport, but that's the obvious one. But the biggest one is just obviously the day-to-day stuff. You're in training every day. You can periodise your training a little bit better. You can have recovery days, you can have strength days, and you can have speed days, and so your preparation for the games is completely different to what it is in a part-time model. So that's the biggest difference. In terms of everything else, it's all very similar, just on a larger scale, really. Like for me as a coach or a manager, it's turning up every morning and being out on the grass every day, being around the lads all day, every day. You can't beat it. It's what gets your juices flowing, and it's important for me then in like a part-time model. How do you recreate that in a part-time model to the best of your ability, so that it, as I've just said, keeps your juices flowing, and it keeps your sort of enthusiasm and your motivation to be involved in the game. And I'm very privileged and very fortunate to be given the opportunity to mould that as I'd like in the part-time model that we've got here at Gloucester City.
Yeah, so you go in as the Newport County assistant manager, and then the back end of last season you get the opportunity to become the caretaker manager for 2 games. Talk to us about that scenario and how you were informed that they wanted you to become that for the last games, and that experience for you.
It's an unbelievable experience. So the first year was a fantastic year. Like, again, working with the people that I worked with, working with the players that I worked with, we had some real special memories together. Memories that last a lifetime. And then when in the summer Graham and Joe left, I was offered the opportunity to stay, and in the back of my, like, I was part of Graham and Joe's sort of staff, if you like, and Graham said, stay and see what the next opportunity sort of presents, and so I was really, really fortunate to have his sort of blessing to sort of explore that, and I was offered then the opportunity to stay on as assistant manager to Nelson Jardine, who came in, and it was a really difficult year, both on and off the pitch, but was nowhere near as successful of a year that the football club deserved. And then when that sort of time came around, so we were mathematically safe, and then Nelson left, and it was 2 games remaining, so the opportunity presented itself to sort of take that on an interim basis. I think it was mad. So we were playing Fleetwood on the Saturday away, so last away game of the season. So you turn up to training on Friday, you train, you jump on a bus and you go to Fleetwood. So I turned up on Friday and I was told that the manager's gone, or the manager's leaving.
Wow.
So it's a funny one. So training was actually being watched and observed by supporters as well. So so I had to sort of gather my thoughts, put a session together, and I was probably a little naive really in the fact that we had 2 games. So we had that morning to prepare for Fleetwood, and then we had another game then the following week, and all I wanted to do was to give the supporters 2 performances that just represented the football club. It was something that I was really passionate about through the season, and that they never had it. They never had it for whatever reason. There's different reasons, different opinions as to why, and I was just really, really determined to do that. And so we had 1 session. We went to Fleetwood and we did okay. We lost 2-0 to a corner and a direct free kick, and I was like, how was your luck, sort of thing. But so then that sort of lent itself then to next week. Right, you got a full week of training, and I just fully engrossed myself in the opportunity and the role, not for any sort of personal gain or anything. I was just really passionate and really determined to give them what I would associate as a Newport County performance, and training was fantastic, and to be able to walk out of Rodney Parade in front of that stand. They sing a song at I can't remember what it's called now. I think it's Silver Lining, and it's brilliant. When it's rocking, and it was brilliant to walk out with the staff, to watch the players. My family were in the box, and was a fantastic experience. We got off to a great start, and I was counting my lucky stars really. And then we went 2-1 down, and we made a couple of changes. We gave a young lad his debut, and the game was being turned on its head, and I really felt like we're back in this. And then we went down to 10 men, and it turned quite sour after that, and it was gutting. I'll be honest, it was really, really gutting, but it was an experience that I'll never ever forget, and I was I consider myself very, very lucky to have had it.
Yeah, and that experience, and obviously Newport County is a massive club. They've had so many good experiences in the FA Cup. How disappointed were you that final year wasn't like you said, a Newport County year in that?
Yeah, I was gutted, because in that first year, everything that we did embodied what Newport County is about, and it was about fight, it was about grit, it was about resilience, and it kind of lost that a little bit in that second year, and for whatever reasons, and that was disappointing. And as I said, in that sort of last couple of weeks, had the opportunity to sort of bring that to life, and it was, like I said, I was probably a little bit naive to think that could happen, because when you are stepping into those shoes, you want something to play for, really. And we were mathematically safe. You had players that were out of contracts, or they were concerned about where they'd be next season, and it was a very disjointed, sort of fractured environment to sort of step into in that role. So that's why I just made it about the club and the supporters, and I put a side together that I felt represented that to the best of its ability. And the second year was disappointing, and I was all in. I was really looking forward to another season. I had a conversation with the chairman there about staying on. The new manager was coming in with his own assistant, so it had been a first team coaching role. And like I said previously, you don't really know what that's going to look like, and I didn't know who the manager was coming in at the time, and then as it happened, you don't normally get good timing in football, especially in coaching and management. And I had a phone call, I think, just at the right time from Colin to come on board, and it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, so that's where we get to now. You as the Gloucester City manager starting at this season. A little bit about your relationship with Gloucester City, obviously having that past experience. How often, when you weren't at the club, were you keeping track of how Gloucester City were doing, and little things like that?
Yeah, so it's a weird one. I don't know whether it's because I'm a football fan, and I've been a Swansea City supporter on the terraces, home and away, so I've just maybe it's quite easy for me to get a connection with a football club. I don't know, but instantly, as soon as we left Gloucester, although it took a little bit of time, I just couldn't help but come back and watch. I had no real connection. There was a couple of players there that were there when I was there, but I just couldn't help myself but check how the football club were doing and come up. And there was a couple of away games that I went to. Might have had a hat and a hood up just to avoid sort of any contact. It was a weird one. Just couldn't stay away. And so when the opportunity came up to come back as a manager, it was a no-brainer. And I'll be completely honest, and I've said it on a few occasions. I think if any other football club outside the Football League offered me what Gloucester offered me, I'd have probably stayed in Newport. But it just felt like the perfect timing. I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it's just that connection I've got with the football club, that association that I've got. But I didn't give it 2 minutes thought. It was a no-brainer.
I was going to say, yeah, obviously when you left Newport, I saw a lot of, I was looking at sort of the final tweets around that time, and a lot of their fans seemed a bit disappointed to see you go. And then on the flip side, a lot of our fans they just seemed really buzzing to get you on board. How happy did that make you to see how excited the supporters were to see you back at the club?
I won't say every Newport fan was disappointed to see me go.
Well, some of them.
But yeah, no, that's nice. That's nice to hear. But yeah, listen, it's really important that you, whatever club you're at, it's important to sort of build those relationships, because ultimately, whatever role it is, whether it's like a first team coach, assistant, or a manager, livelihoods are at stake, and these football clubs mean a hell of a lot to a lot of people. So to sort of embrace that is really, really important. And I think that's something that I'm always conscious of. You're not only representing yourself, you're representing the football club, but also the supporters and everyone associated to it, and that's really, really important to sort of grasp that and embrace that. So yeah, listen, when I heard of the interest to come back to Gloucester City, and I was made aware that it went down quite well with a lot of the support. It's just great, isn't it? It's what dreams are made of, really, to feel wanted and appreciated. And I think that's part reason as well why I made that comment about if it was any other club, I probably would have stayed, regardless of what that sort of first team coaching role looked like and whatever capacity that was in. If it was anyone else, I probably wouldn't have explored the opportunity. But with it being Gloucester, I know the people. I know what this football club means to them. I can relate to them, and I think that's the hardest part. I think when you go into a new club, and I already had that, sort of enthusiasm and ambition to do well at the football club. So so the supporters and the people around the football club were a massive part in why I wanted to come back.
Yeah, and 1 minute you're walking out at Rodney Parades, they're singing that song that you just said about, and Gloucester City are going to AFC Tottenham in the playoff final. We obviously lose that final. You get the call from Colin. Does it all feel like a bit of a whirlwind at that moment in time?
Yeah, it does. It was a weird one. So it was all up in the air really towards the end of the season as to what was happening in Newport. And then it was only after the last game of the season. I think we played on the Saturday. I think the last game was a Saturday. And I think you guys were playing Tottenham. Did you play on Sunday?
I think it was Monday.
Monday?
Yeah.
So it was a couple of days after. So I can remember being in my living room at home, and I plugged in the laptop to the TV. I had Clubber TV on, and I was watching you guys at Tottenham. And so that sort of period was a funny one now reflecting on it, because then on the Tuesday I was meeting the chairman at Newport and sort of had a little bit of clarity in terms of what it looked like that end. And then I think it was the Wednesday I had a phone call from Colin. So, and then on the Friday I think I got announced. So it was crazy. But going back to what we said with you, Morgan, earlier, it's a strange game, in terms of like the sackings but even getting appointed and getting phone calls and things like that. That week was definitely a whirlwind and a roller coaster of emotions as well. So, but you think it's bad for me. You think what it's like for my partner. She thinks. So it was a frustrating sort of end of 1 week, but a really exciting start of another.
Yeah, and being a football manager, obviously a lot of your time is put into training sessions, going away from home, overnight stays when you're in the National League North. You mentioned your family there. How much do they have to put up with you being obviously a football manager? Yeah,
loads. Really, really lucky to have the sort of support network that I got. It's difficult for them because when they see you suffer, and well, better than anyone really. Like every loss, every defeat, I'm as low as a snake's belly. So it's but they feel that as well, and it's difficult for them. But equally, then when you get your highs, they're with you there, and they enjoy it just as much as you, if not maybe 10 times more. So it's really important that you've got that support network in this industry, and I'm really, really lucky to have a fantastic one in my partner and my family, and they're different class, and there's no way I'd have got through the difficult times and been able to enjoy the good times if it wasn't for them by my side.
Yeah, and you come into Gloucester City, you bring in, your assistant manager Kevin Phillips and Aaron Wildig, the player coach, and obviously a whole host of players you sign. Talk to us about the appointment of Kevin Phillips, your relationship with him, and how you know Kev.
So I met Kev at Bristol Rovers. So I was doing, at the time, I think it might have been like the 11s or the 12s or something like that, but one of the younger age groups, and he came in part-time as well, and he'd had different experiences working at Forest Green Rovers, and he was at Kidderminster Harriers as well, and we were put together to sort of work with the same age group. And when I mentioned earlier about working with fantastic people at Bristol Rovers of different experiences, different knowledge, and he epitomises that really. There's a lot of different examples I could give you, but with Kev, I worked really close with him, with the under 11s, under 12s, and we then continued to work together with the under 14s, and he's above all else, he's a fantastic person. He's got really strong values, good principles that aligned with myself, and the biggest compliment I can give him and our relationship is when we stopped working together, that relationship continued, and we'd be in sort of frequent contact and communication about what he was doing and about what I was doing, and we always said, and I'm talking like 10 years ago now, but if we got the chance to sort of work together in this capacity, then we'll make it happen, sort of thing. And it's a real nice feeling to be able to do that and to be able to sort of share this journey with him.
Yeah, so you bring in obviously Kev, and then you is that your first experience of being able to go away and not choose your players, but approach players and sign players as a first team manager? What was that feeling like for you?
Yeah, it was great. I had a similar experience last time with Mance. We were very much sort of singing off the same hymn sheet, and we were actively working together in terms of recruitment. So I had a little bit of experience there. And then obviously that sort of helped me gain that sort of knowledge and experience that I needed within that sort of process to do it myself here now. And so I suppose this is the first time where it's my head on the chopping block, if you like, if I get it wrong or if it goes wrong. But it was, as a funny one, it was quite easy. Because I had a really good understanding because as I said, I watched Gloucester a few times last year as a fan, and I had a really good understanding of what the group had in terms of quality. One thing that you don't get to know from an outsider's perspective is what the changing room is like and what they like off the pitch, but I had a good understanding of what players that were already sort of in the building that could fit into what I wanted to do. I had a very clear sort of vision of what I wanted to do if I was given the opportunity to be a manager, whatever it was. But you can only really do that based on the players you've got. If you haven't got the players to do it, then you've got to rejig a couple of things and reconsider what you feel like is the right way of doing things. So I was really lucky, and it was quite easy because of the players I was inheriting. And I had a really clear vision and understanding of what I needed in and around what was currently here. And yeah, of course, you go for certain players in the summer and you're not successful with everyone that you speak to, but I can honestly say we were successful in getting in the large majority of the players that we wanted. So it was a process that can be very complicated and very difficult, but I'll be honest, it was quite smooth sailing and quite easy.
I want to talk about that process. I know a lot of fans will be interested, especially at this level, how sort of, signing a player comes up. We had Soprochukwu or Obieri on, and he said you just came to one of his games, spoke to him, and that was that sort of done deal. obviously not trying to give too much away, but how do moves come about at this level, and how did you sort of approach the market?
So networking's key, really. So, contacts is important, whether it be managers, coaches, agents, but also players. Obviously you can't contact players unless they're due to be out of contract, so there's a certain sort of line. But yeah, ultimately it's about having that sort of strong network and being able to reach out to different people and different personnel, and then you obviously show your interest in that individual, and depending on how the conversation goes, sometimes it's an easy sell, sometimes you've got to work really hard for it, and what I mean by that is really sort of present to them why we're the right place for them, why we're the right people for them, and also, if you're not familiar with them as individuals, as people, it's important to have those conversations so they're definitely the right fit for you. They might be the right fit in terms of performance levels and player profile, but if, for example, I'm quite big on characters, I'm quite big on standards, and if I feel like I'm looking into someone's eyes and I don't get that buy-in, then they're not going to be the right people or the right players for us. So networking is a big one. So coaches, agents, managers, players, but how those conversations happen definitely depends on the interest of the player.
Yeah, and we obviously go through pre-season. We had lots of players on trial. How do those trial players work, and how hard is it for you? Obviously, like you said, football is obviously ruthless just in general. How hard is it for you to say, oh, maybe you're not the right fit for us, or to get players in trial? How does that really work?
Being brutally honest, it's not that hard, because ultimately you get one shot at it. So those decisions are really, really important. And equally, I think it's how you deliver that message. So, for example, with all the trialists that we had, what could potentially be a difficult conversation, because you're telling them that they're not right for you or whatever. In the same breath, you give them an opportunity by saying, but I think you'll be good for this club or this person, and you almost provide them with a little bit of a strategy to go away and explore. That's the way that I've done it anyway. So one, it makes that conversation and that sort of difficult situation a lot easier for you as a person, but also you're giving them something back. So there wouldn't have been a trialist in the summer that didn't get honest feedback in terms of what do they need to work on further in our opinion, and also a strategy in terms of, well, I think this club might be good for you. I can get in contact with this manager, this coach, and this agent or whatever. So giving them an opportunity to go away with something, as opposed to just getting told you're not right for us, and they're no better off from that experience, really.
Yeah, and then we get to the 9th of August, the home game against Gosport, your first game in charge as first team manager. What was it like, the night before or the week leading up? Was, like you said, football, gets your juices flowing. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it's class. I think I said on a few occasions, I hate pre-season. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. The one thing I do enjoy about it is obviously building relationships, getting to know the players. One thing for us in pre-season, it was very much about building a culture and an environment that I felt, or I feel, lends itself to a successful changing room. So I enjoyed that, and the buy-in of the players made that an enjoyable experience. But from a games perspective, I don't enjoy pre-season at all, really. So you're always itching for that first game. So it wasn't just the night before. It's weeks prior to that. And I got to be honest, like you sat there at home on the Friday night, and all you can think of, see the TN tomorrow, and see all the fans buzzing and bouncing to be back. But then equally, then in another second you're thinking, oh, but I don't want to let them down, and so yeah, a whole mix of emotions, but the overriding one was just excitement, to get in front of that T end again, and to showcase what we're about.
Yeah, so we've obviously started the season fairly well. We're in second place. Give us a little bit of an overview of your thoughts on the season so far, and where you want to be come the end of it.
Well, you're asking me at the wrong time after Saturday, because Saturday's still hurting a little bit. But really, really pleased in terms of where we're at. I said at the start of the season that we'd continue to evolve. We're not the finished article, and we're still not the finished article. But with the changes that we were making on and off the pitch, I knew that pre-season wasn't just going to be enough. Especially in a part-time model where your contact time is limited, and I feel like as the season's progressed, we've gotten better in different elements of our game, whether that be with the ball, without the ball, our intensity, our competitiveness, and also that sort of passion, aggression, to represent this football club, and those sort of values and standards. So I think the start of the season, we were picking up points because of moments and because of little things that we'd introduced in pre-season. I think of late we're picking up more points now because we're a little bit more complete in terms of our performances, in terms of where we are as a group. I wish you'd asked me that question before last Saturday, because that's in the back of my mind. But we're in a good place. We're in a good league position. We've got a good points return for the games that we've played. And before last week, our goals for were the best in the league, and our goals against was quite respectable as well. So we're very much process driven as a group, and it's important not to get too high. It's important not to get too low, although I kind of struggle with that bit. And it's about just taking it game by game. We let everyone else being associated with the football club, the supporters and that, to get too high or too low or whatever, but we'll stick to the task, and we've got a very clear vision of where we want to be at different stages of the season, we're in a good position.
You talk about that process. I remember the Bracknell game sort of sticks out to me as, speaking to you afterwards, it's probably the happiest I'd seen you at that point. Obviously saying that it's a process. What was it that sort of made it come together? Is it what you're seeing on the pitch, or is it seeing as the season progresses, the more and more players are sort of you hope they'd already bought in, but sort of everyone's coming together and like, this is it, like we're in for the long haul here? Yeah,
I'd probably say all of the above, really, without sitting on the fence. One thing I'd say, like I consider myself really fortunate to have the group of players that I've got. We've got some excellent characters in there, some really good personalities, and when the biggest challenge I had in my mind, and it was the only sort of conflicting one in my head when I took the job, was going to a part-time model. But when I had the conversation with Colin, and I wanted reassurance that as long as we do it in the most professional manner that we possibly can, then that's something that I'll be all over. And Colin was fantastic with me in the summer in terms of I was probably doing his head in to a point that I was asking for quite a lot of things, but he was absolutely brilliant, and I can't speak highly enough of him. And that lent itself then to my conversation with the players. So from the very beginning, when I spoke there was only one player that I wasn't able to meet face to face. So I met everybody face to face before making sort of decisions as to who was staying, etc. And that one individual I've got a good relationship with anyway. He was here last time, so I knew what he was about and he knew what I was about. But when I had those conversations with the players, I just put everything on the table in terms of how I work. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But this is how we're going to do it. And it's not going to work unless you buy in. And then it's up to you then to give them that platform and to give them the opportunity to be the best version of themselves. but without that initial buy-in from the players, you've got no chance. And they've bought in from the very start, and I'm really, really lucky to have a fantastic group of characters, a really talented group of players, and we saw that through pre-season. And as I said, as the season's sort of gone on, I feel like we're becoming a little bit more complete. And in around that sort of time of the Bracknell game is when I really felt like, yeah, we've got something good here, and things are coming together, and yeah. So we've had a disappointing week, and it's the first time I can really say that all season. And you know, you're not going to get perfect weeks throughout the whole season, and if you do, then it's a strange one because they don't come around often. But also there's been things outside of our control that have sort of impacted that as well, and with the sending off and etc. But no, I feel like we're in a good place on and off the pitch, in the changing room, and that's credit to the lads. You know, they're working incredibly hard. We've got full buy-in. They're doing absolutely everything they can to represent this football club and everyone associated with it. And we've all got the same end goal, and that's important.
Yeah, the schedule is obviously always busy in football, but this month in particular we've got 7 games in this month, and then the first one after is the Friday night game at the KMM Energy Stadium. Last season we trialled the Friday night lights and we had over 1,800 people at the ground. Talk to us a little bit about the Gloucester City fans and what they can be like for not just you but the players on the pitch on a match day.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge, and I think I was asked the question a couple of weeks ago about the attendances and the supporters, and I think it was a way of maybe selling more tickets for the Saturday or something like that. I don't know what tricks you lot get up to. It's really difficult to ask more of them, because like even Saturday at Uxbridge, they travel in the numbers, they make an incredible amount of noise, and it's really difficult to ask more of them. But when they turn up in their numbers, it's, in my opinion, there's no better at the level, 100%. And you could even go levels higher. They're a special group of supporters, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. They're key. They're key to what we want to do. I said in one of my first interviews, if we're going to be successful, whatever success looks like, but if we're going to be successful, whether it's this year, next year, whenever, it has to be an all-in mentality. I don't think you'll find a football club that is successful without everyone buying in, everyone singing off the same hymn sheet, and that's what we need. And we definitely can't fault the supporters at the minute. They're doing an incredible job. And listen, if they want to bring mates, if they want to bring family members, or the kids that they're bringing along, can they bring their friends and we increase the numbers even more, then brilliant. But I find it really difficult to sit here and ask more of them, because I think they've given us absolutely everything. And I think I said in my interview Saturday, to be fair to the lads, I think they're giving them everything as well. And then that's when you've got something quite special, because that's a great example of that sort of all-in mentality, where everyone's really trying to be the best version of themselves to give the club every chance of being successful.
Yes, that's all I've got to ask. Do you want to end off today's thing with our little fun segment?
We do a little quickfire question. It feels a bit weird doing it at the bottom of the pod. We usually get this one out the way with. I'll get straight into it, Daff. So, favourite film?
Green Mile.
Favourite artist?
Oasis.
Favourite song?
Go Live Forever.
Favourite food or takeaway?
Any pasta dish. Love pasta.
It's a childhood team, but Swansea City. Favourite holiday destination?
We tend to do Greece a lot, So I'll have to say one of the Greek islands.
Favourite player of all time?
It's going to be one of two players. I can't choose between them. So you've either got Lee Trundle or you've got Leon Britton. And if you don't know who Leon Britton is, he's basically Harry Pinchard.
Okay. Favourite manager of all time?
Favourite manager. I've got to say Pep Guardiola. Like, unbelievable what he does and how he's sort of transformed the game, especially in this country. But sticking with the Swansea theme, I'll go. I loved Roberto Martinez.
Okay. Biggest inspiration, whether that's football or non-football?
What person?
Anyone.
Biggest inspiration? Don't know.
Anyone that sort of gets you going, gets you motivated to come in?
Sheppy.
Love that.
First game you remember watching?
I was 6. I don't remember, but my first game was 1998 Exeter City at home at the Vetch. I can't even remember what the score was, but I don't remember being there. Remember watching on telly. I remember the '98 World Cup.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that.
The final one here. Favourite footballing memory. We'll go for as a coach and as a fan.
What was that?
So favourite footballing memory, and then we'll have one from you as a coach and as a fan.
As a fan, I'm gonna say the playoff final, Swansea, when they beat Reading to get into the Premier League. 1-4-2. As a coach, I'll say, no-brainer. Man United, 4th round of the FA Cup for Newport. Unbelievable experience.
I just wanted to add one in there, just a Swansea City question. For me, and obviously Morgan, I think we're a bit young to remember, obviously Lee Trundle playing for Swansea. I think my favourite Swansea City era is when Michu and them lot, Nathan Dyer was banging the goals. And what's your favourite memory or era as a Swansea City fan?
So when I first started watching Swansea, they were Division 4. And I was really lucky as a supporter. So like, obviously you're a supporter. Like, your dream is to see your club sort of progress through the leagues, isn't it? And that's exactly what happened with me as a supporter. So started supporting the Swans in Division 4, and then obviously watched them go through the leagues, get to the Premier League. Went to watch them in the Europa League, which was incredible. Trips to like Napoli and places like that. But although the Premier League, a lot of people might assume it's the answer to the Premier League and the Europa League, but I loved Division 4. I loved it. I loved going to the Vetch Field. There's like 1,000 of you there, if that, at times. And you're losing, 4-0 to Halifax or something. I loved it. Standing on the North Bank, it was class. And so yeah, my highlight really in terms of an era was that.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think at the end of every episode we ask the same question to the guest. Who do you think we should get onto the podcast next? Somebody club related.
Someone a bit more entertaining than me. I'll give you 2 answers. One for comedy value, and one because I think it'd be really interesting for the support. So, and you might not like me saying this, I get Colin Taylor on because the transformation that he and others have made to his football club is incredible, and I think as much as from an outsider's perspective is quite visible, I think it'd be fantastic to hear it from him, because I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. And yeah, comedy value, get Shep Dog on. get
It's
him
got to
on.
be. I think it's got to be the next one.
It's the most requested guest.
Is it? Yeah.
I think Ed said I think
Josh said him as well.
Yeah.
You might regret it after 5 minutes.
I was going to say a lot of bleeping.
Yeah.
Might have to be a 2-parter, that one. I reckon that might have a lot of stories to tell.
But to be fair, on a serious note, like this club means everything to him. Like as much as he's all about sort of comedy value and all that, and he's got that hat on and whatever, but like he loves his football club. So I'm sure he'd be able to share some stories about obviously Gloucester City over the years as a fan as well. So it would be a funny one, but it'd be a good one.
Well, thank you, Daff, for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you. Cheers.
And Morgan, thanks for obviously, as always, being the co-host. That's been TigerTalk Podcast with Dafydd Williams, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.